Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, where business insight meets startup innovation. And now your host, Brian Sparks and Lisa Helfrich.
Yes, get into it. There's the music, and there's the crowd as usual. Lisa, good to see you. I want to welcome everybody to Silicon Valley Impact on Pirate Cat Radio, KPCR 92.9 FM in Los Gatos and beyond. What you're about to hear is edited for radio. I'm your host, Brian Sparks, and with us too is Lisa Helfrich. Lisa, good to see you.
Yeah, you too. I want Brian as our hype man, like every morning when we wake up.
I want that track. Yeah,
I can set that up for you and put it on your iPhone so that's your alarm from now on, Lisa.
Exactly. I need that recording.
I might hit the snooze bar, but let me say this: our show, the purpose of this show. I'm just trying to move on quickly. The purpose of our show is to have honest conversations about what it takes.
Steamroll me and move on. That's okay, man. I get it.
That's what you call throwing grenade in the foxhole and running, right there. What it takes to build great businesses and communities so that you can make an impact within your own. And we have a great group of individuals in the studio today. Lisa, we have the ever popular, legendary Donna Griffit. Donna, good to see you.
Good to be here.
Oh, rock star. I can't wait to get in this conversation. We had in a minute, we have two dynamic startups. We have Mohammed, who will be speaking in a minute, as well as Ahmed, who will be joining us and talking about their startups. They're from an interesting cohort out of Saudi Arabia. And so we will get insight into what they're doing. But Lisa, you got a new toy, Lisa. You got a new microphone. Looking good.
Yeah.
Sounding good.
I'm an official radio person now.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
I'm not ready to don myself with that characteristic, but you are definitely in that zone. Love it.
Yeah, it's feeling professional in here. I like it.
I love it. All right, so let's bring in Donna. Donna is a rock star. Donna, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so for those of you, and I don't know who this would include, who haven't heard of you, give us a little intro into who Donna Griffit is.
So I am a corporate storyteller, which basically means that for the past 2 decades, I've roamed the globe helping people not be boring, taking bits and bytes and technobabble that startups and organizations tend to do and transforming them into powerful story-driven narratives that capture minds and capture funding and capture clients and everything in between.
And we thank you for doing that work, because what you've discovered is it is a very overlooked skill.
It's funny because founders are, predominantly technical. And when somebody's very technical, it's very hard for them to get out of their head, to say it mildly. But even founders that come from like a marketing or a business background will call me like really embarrassed saying, I used to do this for clients and I just don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't tell this story. It's getting all muddled and mucked up, because when it's your own, it's really hard to get out of your own head and tell it in a way that someone else will get.
Yeah, a doctor can't operate on themselves. And
right.
Yeah.
I think it tried.
But those are the good ones, though. The ones that call you up, humbled and aware of their responsibility to move their idea forward and communicate it. What got you into? Let's get a run up on this. What got you into this space? Because you always haven't been here. You were in corporate for a while. And then
so I was doing consulting for corporate. I started working in this field in 2004. Mm-hmm. I was a little bit back from that. I've always been into acting, and something in me at a very young age knew that I needed a profession that I loved as much as that there was a better chance than 3% success rate. And then when I was about 16, I heard about this thing called drama therapy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. That combines acting and it combines people, which I love both. And I found out there was a master's degree at NYU for it. I did everything up until that point to ensure that I'd get accepted. I did move to New York right after I finished my bachelor's. And then I found out that the salaries for a drama therapist was about that of a starving artist. And I'm like, I didn't come all this way to be doing that. There's got to be something else. And then, these serendipitous moments. Mm-hmm. And I had one of my professors happen to mention that she had a friend that traveled the world and gave workshops and motivated people in speaking. And I was like, hallelujah. That's
spoke to you
sign me up,
instantly, yes.
Sign me up for that. And I started investigating. Lo and behold, at NYU, they had a continuing program, Postmasters, for training and organizational development. Signed up for that, sent my resume to the first job on Craigslist that I saw hiring for corporate trainers. And I got hired by a wonderful firm called Boyer Communications Group. They're in Manhattan, and started traveling the globe, teaching presentation skills, business writing skills, everywhere from like Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Yes, that is an actual place, to Johannesburg, South Africa, and Taiwan, and Thailand, and all over. And then came 2008.
So let me ask you this. Okay, before we get to 2008, because those who, or or over 20 knows what happened in 2008.
Yes.
But what I just heard you say,
history books, right?
What I just heard you say is you identified something that just spoke to you.
Yep.
And you leaped into it.
I did.
You have that startup heart.
It really is. It's like the entrepreneurial spirit, but it's like I'm a solopreneur. So, and I always have been. Like, I was hired by Boyer Communications, but I was as an independent contractor. So it's always kind of just been me. But I get to work with incredible companies and startups along the way, so it's not like the lonely path.
So I don't want to blow by that really quick. So that's what I think is really special about entrepreneurs, startups, founders. Your story is where you just you didn't wait. Something spoke to you. There was a calling.
Yeah.
You went. You didn't wait till you were ready. You did it messy.
Oh yeah, messy. Just dive right in, figure out what needs to be done, even if it's a few years off, and you do it, and then you're like, oh, that's not exactly what I had in mind. How can we pivot? How can we change this?
That's a show in and of itself. So those of you listening right now, stop on that for a minute and think, when do you launch? And it's not when, it's now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just
it
go
doesn't
now.
have to be perfect. It has to be done.
It just has to be.
Like we hosted people on Sunday, and I have an 11-year-old and 8-year-old girls, and they're amazing. And so my 11-year-old is like putting a napkin in the basket where the breadsticks are going, and like literally for 10 minutes. And I'm like, Lily, you just it does not have to be a perfect napkin. We just need it done. Put the napkin in and put the breadsticks in. So sometimes to these startups, I just say put the breadsticks in the basket and just serve them. They don't have to look perfect.
I love it.
You just need to get it out there.
Okay. So 2008 hit, you had to pivot.
So 2008 hit. And those of you that remember it, it was kind of felt like COVID when the world shut down, like literally overnight, every corporate canceled all training, all travel, all anything that could potentially be a money sucker. And obviously learning how to present and sell wasn't at the top of their list of crucial skills. So I had an entire year of work just canceled in a second. And it's just like, oh my Lord, what am I going to do now? And I'd never had a 9-to-5 job. I've always been doing these different things, even through school. I worked at all these different fun things and had my own businesses. And I'm like, what now? And in the middle of a recession, where am I going to find work? And I started taking courses in coaching and NLP and did some exploring in that. And then the guy I was studying NLP with said, I have a coaching client. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon. And he needs some help with his public speaking. He's like the head of this big guild for cardiothoracic surgeons and cardiologists, who are apparently like the Jets and the Sharks. They don't like each other very much. The intrigues of the heart. And when I started working with him on his speeches, he showed me 2 medical devices he had invented. And he's like, I was invited to this angel conference in New York. 80-something angels are going to be in the room. I have 5 minutes to present each presentation. Can you help me with that? Now, this was 2009. I had never worked with a startup, but I was like, you know what? My story's a story. Why not? And we worked on these 5-minute pitches, and I ended up actually presenting on his behalf, which doesn't usually happen in demo days. Startups do it themselves, but he was, he could save 3 lives in a day, put him in front of a computer, and he died, basically.
So quick question, just so for those who are listening and getting into the coaching practice, because it's a craft that takes a while, right? You've got to really be in it. But in that moment where you had this first client, how did you figure out what you were worth, the charge?
So it's funny because I remember thinking that, because I knew how much, and it's not coaching per se, because it's a skill kind of thing. So the guy that connected us, I remember he was earning X an hour. And I was like, wow, if I ever reached that, that's amazing. I've probably surpassed him like 4 times since then. But it's hard putting a price tag on yourself and your own value. And I think that my experience working with women entrepreneurs and founders, it's even more because women, like, it's not this conversation you can't have and valuing yourself, where men will just come in like, oh, that's my price. And and it's an important conversation because we are bringing tremendous value. And once you realize, companies are raising millions based on the pitches that I write with them, and that's worth a lot of money. And
so you pipivoted from a corporate hourly rage,
rage.
I'm just learning English right now. Range or salary to now. Okay, what is the package? What is the project worth?
Yep.
And how did you zero again?
That took some time. So this was like the initial thing, and then we kind of packaged it because it was a long engagement. And then we went to New York. I presented on his behalf, and then the other 2 startups that had been chosen to come got up to present, and they were not good. I mean, it was painful how bad they were, and my heart just broke for them. And right away, they had 5 minutes, but it's like they were basically throwing things at them. And I was like, why? If they had this opportunity to be in a room with so many people that could infuse so much cash into their startup, did they not hire someone like me to work with them? And then I was like, wait a minute. And I started doing some investigating, and there wasn't really anyone focused on messaging for startups, or storytelling was very nascent in those days. Today, everyone and their grandmother's a storyteller. Back then, it was like, no. And then I was like, okay, that's my new audience. I'm going to be a storyteller for startups. And people were like, startups aren't going to pay you. They don't have money. They don't think they need you. And I was like, thank you for the feedback. I'll get back to you on that. Like the voices come up and tell you you're crazy. You shouldn't be doing this.
The imposters,
And luckily I didn't listen. And I started kind of guerrilla marketing in a sense. So demo days were starting to gain popularity. Accelerators were popping up everywhere. And like pitch competition, suddenly it was very popular because there was a recession and enterprise was on the demise, but startups were like having their golden era, but they couldn't raise money to save their lives because nobody was investing at that point. So I started doing what I called storytelling as a service, or sponsorship as a service back then I called it. And I said, let me work with your cohorts. Let me work on their pitches. You don't have to pay me because I know, you don't have money to pay, but just put my logo on the sponsors and thank me at the event where I'll be. So people start to recognize my name linked with pitches. And at first they're like, yeah, we don't take sponsorship that's not cash. Thank you. And then I get called in as like a pinch hitter 3 days before the event. Like, hi, we remember us? Yeah, the pitches are really not good. Can you come in and do some work with them?
Yeah, because that reflects on the producers, right? Yes. They have a poor quality take the stage. The audience isn't going to pay to come back or attend.
And doing it in 5 minutes or 3 minutes like they had last week at Plug and Play Summit, which I coached the pitches there. It's an art form. It's not easy to get that much into that short a time. So I was like, sure, absolutely. And so I started doing these events, and then people started like, Donna, who's this Donna person? And pitches and little by little I started getting, clients coming, and then word of mouth. And here we are, 14 years later, and
still
15
doing the
years
same
later,
thing because you're popping up everywhere.
I've worked with over 1,000 VCs, startups, accelerators, and Silicon Valley giants like Meta and Google in pretty much any industry you can imagine, and then some that would probably make the hair on your head grow really.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I love that. I love what you're saying. So I want to, for our audience, I want to summarize what I just heard, and for you all to hear what is necessary in terms of leaning into what needs to be done. Number one, just do it.
Just do it
messy.
Get the breadsticks in the basket.
Yeah, don't wait. You got an idea, let it pull you, and then gather those resources as you go. That's number one. Number two, resilience. You just leaned in and went for it. Number three, proximity. You put yourself in the environment you needed to succeed, and then you anchored yourself to that environment, and then it became almost second nature to those who were also in the environment to identify you as.
Yeah.
So those are early stage marketing ideas, go-to-market strategies, and whether you're in storytelling and coaching, or you're launching the next AI startup, right?
The next big AI.
The next big AI. So let's do this, Donna. Let's for our audience, what are some you wrote a book.
I did.
Let's go that way. You wrote a book, excellent book, by the way.
you.
Sticking to My Story.
The Alchemy of Storytelling for startups.
So give us,
Brian, you want to hold that book up for us?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
want to
so-
hold that book up for us just one second?
for those of you on radio who can see it, no, for those of you
the paperback.
That's the paperback. Where can they get this?
Amazon. It's got the paperback, the Audible, which I narrated myself, and the Kindle. So it's available there for you.
I love it. Okay. So what are some first things that startups or those you're working with need to look at? What is the first thing they should be talking about? Because what you were just saying is that in the doctor example, they could save lives. They could, put them in their element.
Incredible technologies, incredible life-changing things. But Stuart Butterfield, who was interviewed on a podcast similar to this by Reid Hoffman, and Reid Hoffman said, if there was like a piece of advice you could go back and tell your younger self, what would it be? And Stuart Butterfield said, concentrate on the storytelling, on convincing people, because if you can't do that, it doesn't matter how great your product is.
So let's break down the story. Where does it begin? In your book, it talks about the villain.
The villain. The villain is really the most interesting and motivating piece of a startup story. Think about action adventure films. You've got the Keanu Reeves or the, Henry Cavill's and all the pretty boys, but really the ugly nitty gritty is what moves the plot forward.
Hold on, Brian.
I'm hearing it.
What's that noise? Let's call it out. An elephant in the room.
Lisa tried to tell me this at the beginning. I wasn't hearing it, but Lisa, that's because we're getting a little bit of feedback from your computer. Yeah, and so I can't cut it off on my end, but if you put those headphones on, we'll be able to clear that up.
All right.
Thanks, Brian, for pointing out the elephant in the room. I really appreciate that.
Sometimes you just got to call that elephant out.
So everyone at home, the more you know, call it out. Right? This is call it out. All right. So
yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. All right. So sorry, Donna.
No, it's fine.
Thank you, Lisa.
So what were we saying?
Sorry, Donna.
It's okay. So the villain.
The villain.
So the
Which was the
villain is
noise.
really what moves the plot forward. Now, just to take a step back in the book. So I said I come from a theater background, and I have always, tried to find a way to divide my methodology into something that is inspiring to me and that people can get. And theater was the obvious choice. So if you think back to Greek tragedy and classics and Shakespeare and Moliere and Chekhov, they wrote in acts, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4. And that's how very, very early storytelling was done, in chunks. Because when we learn to communicate at these very basic building blocks, that's how it's happening. And somewhere along the way, we go to business school and forget those early childhood ways of how we learn to communicate. And then we put in all these big words and think we're so smart and so fancy, and we basically are boring our audiences to death. So I'm saying, get back to this framework, and it becomes a transparent framework. I mean, we're sitting in a studio here in a building which has a frame. I see walls, I see paint, I see lights, I see y'all sitting here. I don't see the frame, but we know it's here. It's supporting us. So you have to have a powerful framework for your startup's pitch before you even get started. Once that's in place, you can start to fill it in. And the 4 acts of your startup play are the problem or the villain, the solution or the hero, the business side behind it or the hero's combat plan, and the vision for the future, or what'll happen in the aftermath after your hero does the whole saving Gotham. And people sometimes look at me when I give this in a workshop. They're like, really? Problem, solution? Oh my God, I learned that in MBA. That's the best she has to bring us from Silicon Valley. Really? Yeah. It is old. It's antique, actually. It's 36,000 years old, this idea of problem solution, from the first cave painting. That people first recorded their story and their problem. Oh my gosh, we're being attacked by buffalo. This was discovered in France. And since then, we've been telling stories and we've been recording them.
But there's an art to the simplicity.
Yeah.
Because, if you talk to an investor, for example, yesterday I listened to 30 pitches.
Oh my God.
I was exhausted. Were you guys there last night? You guys weren't there last night, but I listened to 10 from your cohort last night alone. And that was after coming, because I was at Plug and Play last night as well. And I was exhausted. And what you're saying is that the simplicity for the investor is comprehension. And if you have that framework, and they can understand it and then move to a second conversation.
Yes.
I think that's the key, right?
If you're giving a 5-minute pitch, you guys have 5 minutes or 3 minutes? Yeah. There's no way you're going to tell your whole story.
Mm-hmm.
But your goal is to intrigue them enough that they want to continue the conversation to a longer, like they're not going to pull out a checkbook and write you a check on the spot. So, and especially when you're up with 30 other companies or 10 other companies or an exhausting day, you need to be memorable. And stories have a way of sticking in people's minds. They're not going to remember the facts, the figures, the CAC, the LTV. They are going to remember why you started it, what you're doing, maybe some significant moments or some interesting tidbit that they didn't know. And that's how we want to guide them on this. So the first step of it is either the problem or the opportunity that you've presented. And the best way to get that across is through a story. Mm-hmm. So my preference is an origin story. So how did you come up? That's usually the first question I ask founders. How did you come up with this idea? And usually there's some kind of like, oh, well, my sick uncle, or, oh, well, we had a neighbor, or, oh, well, at the place that I worked at. And there's a story there. And it's usually a very inspiring and unique story. I'm like, that's where we want to start from. Now, if it's kind of a boring, like, oh, we got the idea from an investor, we want to spice that up a little. Now, Mark Twain said, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So I'm not saying lie, but we can take a story and make it sexier, make it more attractive and memorable.
Put some spice on it.
Put some spice.
I love
Exactly.
it.
These boys are from the Middle East. They love the spice.
I love the spice. But I heard one other thing. Even in you, I mean, you're giving me a hypothetical. You're giving me the framework. But when you said, tell me the origin story, and you can think back to that aha moment.
Yes.
There's an emotional response.
There's an emotional response that resonates with other people because it's like, oh, that reminds me of the time that, and we want the people in the audience feeling like they're nodding.
You want them out of their head.
And they're out of their head, they're out of their phone, which is, I mean, if you can keep them off their feet for 5 minutes or 3 minutes, that's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But also they're connecting. And what's amazing about the power of storytelling is studies show that when someone is telling a story and someone is listening and they're enraptured in that moment, our brain waves actually sync up. And that's a huge moment of influence. And if you're about to ask for a lot of money or to close a contract, or hypothetically, of course, then you want that moment of influence. And you want to be able to have them on your side and in your hand. And I've seen some phenomenal pitches where the stories are so good, like you could hear a pin drop in the room. They're just all like that.
They're riveted.
They're riveted.
I love it. So you get them out of their head, into their heart, seeing themselves in that image, and you do that with a framework of...
So the problem or the villain, as you set up. So first we want to hit them over the head with this problem, with this origin story, and it's showing like we had a problem that we identified in our lives or our professional lives, our personal lives, and then broaden it a bit. So, and there's a lot of people in the world that have this problem. So for example, one of the stories I tell in the book is about a company that the founder, his father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in his 50s. And they couldn't get his blood sugar levels down, and he was getting weaker, and he had lost all his lust for life because he couldn't eat his wife's home cooking, and he needed a nap every day. And Ron, the founder, set off on a mission to cure his dad's type 2 diabetes. Now, it's a chronic disease. We know there's no cure for it, but that was what was driving him. Mm-hmm. And he eventually did find a herbal supplement that when he put all these herbs together, it took his dad's blood sugar levels down 70%, practically to pre-diabetic levels after just 2 weeks. But he found a much bigger problem. And that's where we want to broaden it. And that would be the transition between the villain and the hero, the problem to the solution. $1.1 billion spent each year on diabetes research, and still no viable way to manage it. 166 million people in the US alone will be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes each year. And it's a gateway disease for cancer, for cardiac disease, for obesity. And still, there's no way. It completely takes over your life. If you or anyone you know have ever dealt with a chronic illness, it completely takes over your life, managing it, and meds and adherence and doctors and watching your diet. It's a full-time job. And he decided to create a platform called Cure Life to help people take control of their chronic illnesses rather than it controlling them.
So I got into this conversation last night with a guy in a startup, and he loved his idea.
Oh yeah, we all are in love with our
Right,
ideas.
and I said it's great that you have a conviction for what you're bringing to the market, but what I'm hearing you say and what I was sharing last night is you're really obsessed on the problem. And because if you're in love,
It's okay to be obsessed with the problems, better than being obsessed with the solution. But
yeah, because again, if you are obsessed with your solution,
Yeah.
it may not fit the problem.
Exactly. And there's a great book by one of the founders of Waze called Fall in Love with the Problem and Not the Solution. And he talks exactly about that. And you have to be motivated by the people you're going to help, not like, oh my God, we have this beautiful solution. It's amazing. Everybody loves it. I spoke to someone who had a startup, and he was acquired eventually by Facebook when it was still Facebook. And he said, we had created this product. We loved it. It was amazing, and nobody was using it. And we couldn't figure it out because it was such an amazing product. And, you can't create a beautiful product without people that want to use it, because you need to really, that's the first place you start. Addressing and seeing that there isn't anything out there that's quite solving it, and this is a problem worth a lot of money. After all, you're talking to investors, not philanthropists, so you need to be able to prove $1.1 billion spent each year. This is a huge burden on the U.S. healthcare system, which is already failing and flailing. And adherence, and we're moving to a value-based medicine, which, for those of you that don't know, by 2030, Medicare and Medicaid will be deciding on reimbursement for doctors based on success, whether they have patient engagement, whether they're preventing rehospitalizations, results-based. They're going to have to prove the results.
I want to go back to something you just said that I thought was so significant. And those who are taking the stage, telling a story with this framework that you're talking about, how they're obsessed with the problem, the journey of that problem, what are the results? I think there's a big contrast between taking the stage and then trying to sell your product. You're not up there to sell your idea or sell your business and get people by. You're up there to relate.
Yeah. And the minute you relate and others get it and see the passion and see the excitement, you're selling it without even trying. You're using the principles of like getting into I call it like a 3-prong message. It's the heart, the head, the heart, and the gut. We don't want to just hit for the head. And that's what usually people do. It's a blockchain AI combination, machine learning with the touch of AI thrown in. Like, nobody cares.
What's the distinction? So, okay, I've heard interesting presentations that I will say, wow, that makes sense, but it didn't move my heart. Then I've heard stories that, wow, I say that's inspiring, but it didn't really get me to think.
Right.
But you're saying that there's another element that's in your gut.
Yes.
And when you have all of those three activated, you get a particular result. Talk about the third one a little bit more, about hitting people in their gut.
Right.
What does that look like, sound like, and get people to do?
So a heart, it could be like, oh, I get that. That's nice. The gut is like, ooh, I'm feeling that. Or, ooh, you are hitting exactly where I wanted to ask you. Like, my whole framework, and in the book, I have a whole chapter at the end devoted to like over 100 questions that investors will ask you. So the framework is based on investor questions that need to be asked. Some of them are very cerebral, like money and business plan and everything. Others are, why are you different? What sets you apart? How will you deal with barriers, different things. So you've got to be addressing all of these concerns. And if you're intuiting their questions and answering them in a very particular order, they don't have anything to sit there and want to argue with you about. They're actually listening, like, oh, wow, he addressed that. Oh, wow, I was wondering, and he answered that. So there's a very intentional order and flow, but you're going beyond and you're making them kind of fall in love with you, because investors are constantly listening for 3 things: credibility, likability, and momentum. How well you know your stuff, your credibility, how skilled your team is, how much you've studied, how much experience you have. Momentum, how far you are, how many sales and growth and all the good traction. And momentum and likability is not like, oh my gosh, I'm so sweet and I'm so nice and I'm like a nice, really good person. No, it's showing flexible mindset. It's showing you have something to teach me. I'm here for the money, but I'm also here to learn from you, because good investors get down in the trenches. My husband is a serial entrepreneur, and he has incredible investors right now who call him like 4 or 5 times a day to make introductions and to give suggestions and to do things. And it's a true partnership. And yes, they funded the startup, but they're in there with the trenches. This matters to them. And I saw in the conversations he was having when he was closing this deal up close, it all play out, and they truly like fell in love with him. I mean, not that I can blame them, but it was like the product too. But you want them to love the product, you want them to love the team, you want them to love you. They're going to be spending a lot of time with you over the next few years. It's got to be a good experience.
Yeah, Lisa and I call that founder fit. There's a big element in terms of who that individual is. You're not only selling. I mean, even though I said don't say selling, you're not only getting people to relate to your idea, you're getting people to connect with you as an individual.
You, your team, the whole shebang. I mean, some investment periods last longer than marriages nowadays.
Lisa was in, not Lisa.
I've got a quick question.
Sure.
Do you have any quick tips for startups that might be listening? Maybe they've nailed the pitch and the story, but physically, how can they show up more confidently, not so salesy, live in front of an audience? Let's say they haven't presented a lot. What quick tips do you have for them?
Great. So first of all, 50% of nerves and of not showing up really are about not having a clear story. Because when you're there like a deer in headlights, I don't know what I'm going to say, all these nerves build up and those butterflies turn black and grow fangs and like fly up and I don't know what I'm doing. So first of all, coming with a confident, clear story helps a lot. And then it's a lot about breathing. I want you to think of it like taking yoga breaths. You breathe in through your nose, you fill your belly with air, and it calms your nerves, but it also gives you powerful presence of voice. There's hand gestures involved, eye contact. You want to try to make eye contact as much as you possibly can with your audience. Share a moment, share a thought. You're in a room pitching. You've got a whole array of people in front of you. That energy is a hugely powerful kind of moment that charges you and brings out your inner Beyonce, as I call it.
Sasha Fierce.
Yeah, there you go. And it's about working with your voice. It's a lot of practice. Practice truly does make perfect. You can't finish writing your pitch at 2:00 in the morning and then get on the next morning at 9:00 to pitch and think you're going to do a good job. Not going to happen. You need to practice in front of your team, in front of your friends, your colleagues, your Uber driver, your person sitting next to you on a plane. So much that it becomes part of your cells, that you're so familiar with it, not memorizing, by the way, because if you memorize, you forget a word, you're like totally blacking out. But it's practice. It's practice.
Yeah, the body is really a instrument. It's almost like you breathe in through the nose and the words come out your mouth. Let's do this. Let's do a little bit, at least a great question, by the way, and then we're going to come back to a little bit more and do a deeper dive on that, Donna. But let's bring in Mohammed. Mohammed has a startup. Good to see you.
Good to see
Yeah,
you
great
too.
to have you.
Thank you, Brian.
Congratulations on the demo day and the
Oh, thank you. Actually, my demo day is tomorrow.
We'll take
So
it
this is like more like a practice for me, which is
Good.
nice.
Well, I'm glad you're here. So what we're going to do is first give our audience a little introduction of who you are, and then I'm going to hand the reins over to Donna to walk you through your pitch.
Donna GPT. That's my nickname.
It's actually exciting because you said something just now about technical people being in love with their technology.
Yeah.
Maybe I am that person.
Oh, good. So we have a chance to help you break out of your
I
techno
love that
mind.
vulnerability. Not too many startup founders are like that, where they go, maybe I'm the one.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
But, my name is Mohammed Aljasser. I am from Saudi Arabia. I started in the blockchain industry, which is another word you mentioned just now.
Yes.
I started in the blockchain industry since 2014. I fell in love as soon as I saw blockchain, which is like a digital money. Yeah, exactly. This is my inner nerd firing up as soon as I saw blockchain technology. So since 2014, and I've been like reading papers, I've been programming, I've been looking into blockchain until I was like 100% convinced that it's going to be here for the future. So I wanted...
And then what happened when FTX happened? Did it break your heart?
Well, a lot. It's not only FTX. There is like a million events.
Dominoes.
Yeah, domino effect. It's actually more like a cycle. Every 4 years, 5 years, we get one of those. Either an exchange dropping or, for example, a lot of people steal a lot of money. So it happens every period. And that affects the price, which affects the trust of the people.
And affects the investment.
Exactly. So this is something we struggle with always. So I started back in 2014 as a miner, which is basically I turn on my devices and mine some digital currency.
So, so as you make the transition, you're going to tell us about the problem you identified.
Oh yeah, that's coming up. So, and then I noticed like there is a lot of problems. Yeah, I'm a technical person. I love this stuff. But when it comes to the normal people working 9 to 5, people who like do not like technology that much, blockchain is very hard for them. And I love blockchain and I want to increase the adoption of the blockchain industry. So what I did in 2022, I started a company that specialized in blockchain infrastructure to help businesses and government entities connect to blockchain networks. So I identified this problem, which is blockchain is complex. Blockchain is very scary for a lot of people. And people usually associate blockchain, which is kind of weird, with scams, which is a technology. So I wanted to paint a new picture. I wanted to make the world know that the blockchain technology is safe and they should be using it. Not in front of everybody. For example, a lot of people want to use blockchain technology, but they do not know how to use it correctly. It should be in the backend. This is my own point of view. It should be used by businesses in the backend, not for consumer front, like consumer fronting applications. For example, we see a lot of crypto trading nowadays. We see a lot of other applications. But what I believe in, usually that thing should be in the backend. You could.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
Okay.
Did your mind start wandering at first we were with him and then all of a sudden you started talking about the back end and everything and
He's in his comfort zone.
Yeah. This is the technical part I was telling you about.
But you're going to have 3 minutes for your demo day.
Oh, by the way, this is much
good. And that's fine.
This is like a conversational explanation.
But you know what? In the conversation, you don't want to lose people either because not everybody is like as geeky and excited about blockchain as you are. So you want to know when you're losing people and when you've said just enough because they'll continue a longer conversation.
Okay.
And they'll do the technical due diligence, believe me. You want to know when you're like starting to lose. And I'll tell you, you started to lose it when you started saying, there should be a back end kind of thing.
Because there's a lot of controversy.
I'm going to chime in and let you know that I was on exactly the same page with you.
I could feel it.
Mohammed, you started going down a little bit of a technical rabbit hole.
And your eyes were ablaze and we're all going like,
I want to point out that it's just reading the room. It's knowing who is your immediate audience. We're not necessarily all technical people, like highly technical people. We're semi-technical. And the explanation you were going down was for really technical people. So the people in the room are important. Like, who's your audience? Yeah. Where am I right now? Who am I talking to?
Yes. This Donna, really quick, but this is what happened, not just to dogpile on you. And then what I want you to do is launch right into your pitch.
Actually, I'm going to do the other one, which is the investor pitch.
Do the actual pitch.
But here's what here's what's happening with a lot of people who take the stage. When they don't practice, the safe place for them to go is their comfort zones. That's the silo. And they dig themselves into the silo because they're on stage of their own insecurity. It goes to what you were saying, Donna, about breathing, about feeling safe, feeling creative, practicing those frameworks. And they get stuck in one, but lose everybody.
Yeah. And like sometimes, and I'm not looking at slides here, but I'll like see slides that are loaded with data and I'm like, oh my God, my eyes are bleeding. Please make it stop now. So I just wanted to call that out because this is an important learning moment for both you and for anyone listening out there. Know your audience. Read your audience. Know when you've said enough. Because when you started saying, "Oh, I always love it, blockchain. It's such a great thing, and I did the future," and that was great, and then it went like down from there.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Okay, so let's let
me do the other one, which is the
and wait, let's put you on a clock. You got
30 seconds?
No. 2 minutes.
It's like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, let's give you 2 minutes.
So at Oumla, we're simplifying blockchain technology by providing
Hold on. Are we actually timing this?
No, I got it.
You got it over there. Okay, I just want to make sure. I think someone needs like a starting gun.
Actually, I need 1 minute. That's it.
Okay, that's fine.
Take a minute.
Go for it.
So at Oumla, we're simplifying blockchain technology by providing a secure and scalable infrastructure for businesses and government entities. And we allow them to connect to any blockchain in 30 minutes or less.
That's it. Okay, so let's broaden that a little bit.
Wait. No. But that was a good elevator pitch. Is there something he should lock in?
Oh, this is part of the pitch.
Keep going with the pitch. I want to hear a bit more. That to me was like the opening.
So we're solving two main problems: blockchain complexity and blockchain security. Let's tackle the first one. Blockchain complexity means as soon as you enter the blockchain world, you're going to be a huge target for hackers across the world, and you need to secure your system pretty well, or otherwise they're gonna hack your system and get access to those wallets, and you will lose all of your money. So this is the first problem. The second problem, which is blockchain complexity. Nowadays we have more than 1,000 blockchains, and each one of them is completely different than the other one. Even though they're named blockchains, but each one of them is completely different. For example, Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is pretty famous nowadays. Bitcoin follows something called UTXO, the other one called at account model. So if you want to integrate with them, you're gonna hire more people, and this is gonna increase the cost immensely. So what is the solution? Oumla. We provide you with SDK, an API that allows you to connect to any blockchain with a unified user interface, and cuts the integration time from 6 months to 30 minutes.
Okay, not bad at all. But let's go back a step. Because you started talking about blockchain complexity and blockchain security, assuming that the audience in here had any clue why they would need to know that or why it would be used. Why would we be using blockchain? Who are your customers?
Mostly businesses that want to integrate with blockchain.
What kind of businesses?
For example,
ice cream stores or financial institutions?
For example, crypto platforms such as Coinbase.
Okay.
And for example, tokenization platform for example, carbon trading platforms, credit trading platforms. And for example, in real estate, if you want to store, for example, a real estate, an apartment contract, you can store them in blockchain.
Okay, so let's take a step back. First of all, you have, you're up against a tough crowd right now.
Oh yeah.
Because Silicon Valley is very disillusioned with blockchain because of FTX.
Oh yeah.
And nobody really wants to hear about blockchain. So
trust me, I noticed that.
So, but you can't ignore the elephant in the living room. You can't just pretend like
shots fired.
I mean, and landed.
Let's get honest here. It's the same. I mean, it's. We've seen it happen with several industries that were like the love children, and then suddenly they're the redhead bastard stepchild that nobody wants to deal with. We can't ignore that. So if I were you, I would start off saying, blockchain is probably not your favorite word in the past few years. Okay, it's a touchy thing. However, what you do need to know about blockchain is it's still 80% of all businesses are running on it. And this is going to do that. Like, talk about the benefits and the fact that it's still around.
That's actually amazing. I never thought of that. So we could, for example, well, I know blockchain is not your favorite word right now, but there is like a million businesses.
In honesty, when I hear blockchain, I physically shut down. Like, I want to turn around and walk out of the room.
I don't blame you.
It's not my favorite word. It's horrible.
You start with the empathy, because like you're in love with blockchain, which is lovely, and you can say, so I know it's not everyone's favorite word. There's been some issues around it, to say the least. I personally love it. I've been in love with blockchain since 2014. I know I'm a total geek. But here's a couple facts about blockchain that you may not know, and then give us 3 whammies about the value and the fact that Bitcoin is way up, and the fact that infrastructures of real estate and financial institutions still build on it, and it's still safe, and it will be back. It will have its heyday. And you can even say that analysts are saying that by 2030, blockchain will be the main technology of that. However, there's 2 big barriers to using blockchain other than people stealing money. But let's talk about that.
So Donna, I want to talk about, so you talked about your framework, and you have the problem, the solution. You talked about also creating a vision.
Yeah.
When you say problem solution, those usually are up front, but can you kind of rearrange the last 2 blocks to get like where we're going with this?
So
it's
just a
almost like
second, let's wait on the vision for a second. But here, this is a unique story.
Well, let's do this, Donna. So we got to pause and rotate.
Yeah, we're going to go and rotate.
And
what is your vision for the future? 5 years from now, when you're being acquired or you're
a unicorn.
IPOing, being a unicorn is nice. But what is your vision? What will they write about you in TechCrunch? You were the company that did what?
Well, basically, we do the infrastructure. You mean the grand vision for the
Big vision.
big vision? We
What have you done
What's the
to
cover of the
transform?
magazine say with
Yeah.
you on with your picture on it?
Yeah, exactly.
well, to be honest, what I see, I want to be like the infrastructure for the whole MENA region, and we want
That's
to
not big enough. Infrastructure for blockchain, enabling blockchain.
the unified infrastructure for blockchain.
Yeah,
That's it.
So the vision for that, but what will that happen when we have a unified infrastructure for blockchain? What will that enable in the world?
It's going to enable more businesses to build on top of blockchain. This will increase the decentralization and increase the security for systems.
Okay, so
Everybody here is waving like we got to take a little bit of a
let's
break
take a
here.
little bit of a break. We're going to rotate. We're going to pick up this line of thinking when we come back from break. So with that being said, this is Pirate Cat Radio on KPCR 92.9 in Los Gatos. All right, so Donna, go ahead. We've rotated seats a little bit. We've got Ahmed on the hot mic. He's going to introduce himself in a minute. Mohammed is still here. We're going to tell you how you can get in touch with him in a little bit. But I want to say, even though we're unpacking their pitches, these two have phenomenal companies, and you definitely want to get connected with them.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you both being vulnerable
Yes.
and being
And
under the
I hope
microscope.
that wasn't too bad for you.
But it's what's needed, though, right, Donna? I mean, a lot of these what needed to be successful.
I give, it's firm boundaries. Like, I'm a mom too, so I need to, I know when to keep my girls from getting hurt, and sometimes it's like,
Yeah. So go ahead and wrap up your thought.
So what's important here, and all of you listening, is that's exactly what we're talking about: being in love with your technology, being enamored by it, and ignoring the fact that everybody hates blockchain in the room, and you can't ignore that. However, you can flip that sentiment by joining them and by empathizing with them, and then say how you're going to make it better, because there is an opportunity here. So when we're thinking about the lead-in and the story and the villain, here the villain is blockchain itself. You have to get past that gatekeeper before you even get to the villain of what's wrong with the blockchain.
Okay, great
It's a
insight.
double villain.
Yeah, you got to look at your own heart in order to kind of connect with other people. But Donna, let's bring in Ahmed. Ahmed, welcome. You're on the mic. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thank you for having me
Yeah,
here.
give a little introduction to our audience of who you are, and then give us your 2-minute pitch.
Okay, I'm Ahmed Bukhamseen. I'm from Saudi Arabia. I would describe myself as a data geeks. I'm a mathematician in background. However, I love only financial data. So if there is a dollar or real sign in the data, that's close to my heart. I know how to play with it and analyze it. I worked in insurance sector in terms of pricing, reserving, and banking. And suddenly in Saudi Arabia, there is a huge digitalization in the retail sector and real estate sector, where all the paper data now would become digitalized, and there is a huge opportunity for someone to come in and analyze that data. So I resigned from my job, and I tried to solve a huge problem in Saudi that exists in one of the biggest markets, almost $3 trillion, which is the real estate sector. I noticed that my dad was trying to find a retirement home, and he's receiving offer from multiple agents, and these offer fragmented from each other in terms of pricing, and there were no price index in the country. I was shocked. I'm coming from financial sector. We have stock index and index for everything there. And in the real estate market, people trade in millions and there is no index. So that was the mission. We would like to build the most accurate price index. And actually, it took us lots of time. We went to space to collect data.
Space? Like outer space?
From satellite imagery.
Oh, gotcha. You launched, right?
Yeah, almost there. Actually, right now we rent our satellite with one of the U.S. satellite companies.
So why satellites? Like to actually see the real estate?
Yes. Yeah. So in Saudi, 30% of the global construction is happening now. We're building new cities, new projects. So we need to capture Saudi every month to quantify how many new units is entering the market.
Gotcha.
And to identify even the title deed transaction, is this transaction occurred in a vacant land or in a villa? Then we were able to build that accurate index.
So Brian, it's kind of like the sky cam on Monday Night Football when you can oversee the play.
Oh yeah, he can just fly that camera all over,
Yes.
Fly the
all over
camera.
the world.
It's happening so fast in Saudi. They
I
got
love
to
it.
throw up a satellite. It's
But
amazing.
I have a quick question before,
Yeah.
just a technical question. I know we don't have a ton of time, but you're indexing what?
The property prices per neighborhood, per property.
So
type.
values is
Values,
essentially what
yes.
you're trying to
Yeah.
index. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that Brian asked that. So first of all, I thought you did a great job with the story. You came in from a personal perspective. You saw your father. You also credentialed your background coming from insurance, coming from stocks. You're also a geek, but of numbers, the same way that Mohammed is a geek of blockchain, which is great. Now, that's the one missing piece.
Yeah.
We're not all either real estate investor experts or even stock trading experts. I don't know if you all are retail investors or not, but you need to kind of break that down slightly and say, in the stock market, things are indexed, which means we're able to quantify how much each share is worth based on the total view of the market. I'm making that up, but something around there. You want to talk like in very basic terms that anyone will get. It's not dumbing it down. It's making your audience feel smart. But then you get to homes. How do you index? How do you value a home? By each stone, by the size of it, by if it's an empty lot or if it's developed, by if it's got infrastructure or not? Those are all questions that had absolutely no benchmarking. So everybody was basically making up prices. And that's why my father was getting offers that ranged from $5 million to $500,000. And I decided, with Saudi Arabia being one of the most burgeoning real estate markets in the world today, building new cities and new developments, it was time to give a standard evaluation. And that's exactly what we've done.
Amazing.
I heard a wow in the background. Yeah, it's like Mohammed was like, wow.
Oh my God, how did you just do that? Then that's the point where they usually are like, will you come be our director of sales? No, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's like,
So Ahmed, how did that land?
Initially we launched the first product in...
Well, the feedback. I mean,
the feedback?
yeah.
Oh, okay. The feedback is amazing. I love that clinic. Communication clinic, I would call it that way. And you summarize it better than me. Thank you.
that's my superpower. But I mean, I don't know what it means, but I know how to help you tell it. So.
Yeah.
So there's layers to this. I mean, we can go on and on. We're running short on time. And there's a couple things that I want to talk about. You two are part of a cohort. Talk a little bit about, I know we're pivoting quickly here, but I want to get in this. Talk a little bit about the cohort that you're in and what it is you're doing. You've come over, you don't live here and have an association to Saudi. You actually came over from Saudi. You've been experiencing Silicon Valley now for 2 months?
Right.
2 months. What has been what's the program you're in, and tell us a little bit about your experience about the culture shock.
Sure. So we're part of a program called Tech Founder, is an initiative run by the Ministry of IT and Communication in Saudi Arabia. There is a program here in Silicon Valley. It's called the Multiverse, where it's merging the two universe, Silicon Valley and Saudi Arabia. It's like the bridge. Initially we came here for 4 weeks. We had a course, executive education in UC Berkeley, about entrepreneurship and growth and building a strategy. That was great. Also, we took some part of storytelling with one of the amazing Professor David there. He teaches a lot about that. And then we came here to Palo Alto in the Multiverse office with lots of networking and mentoring. We met you, Brian, one of the activity there. And we started discovering, myself, I start shooting messages in LinkedIn for investor, trying to speak with them. And things is totally different here. For example, I met one of the big AI founders. I pitched to him the company in the same meeting. He accepted to invest with us, and that was one of the door eye-opening for me. Like, oh, things here is different. Maybe.
So it's networking, it's access, it's speed a little bit. We're getting close on time, and what are you pointing at, Ryan?
I'm pointing at Lisa.
Okay.
I know that sometimes we want to move to her and have a sort of a closing Lisa moment, and I'm just pointing to her so that she gets that, so she has
No,
time.
it's all good. Continue, Brian.
Okay, so real quick, how can people get connected with you? And I want you to, I know, Mohammed, you're sitting over there. Walk over here and join him on the mic. First, tell us how they can connect with you. How can people connect with you?
Via email, Ahmed, AHMED, @quant.sa.
Okay, and
For me, it's Mohammed at Oumla.com. Mohammed, normal with an O. MOHAMMED @OUMLA.com.
and you both are on LinkedIn as well.
Oh,
and
yes.
I will put all that information in the show notes so that you all can connect with them. These are two remarkable companies. I know we've been picking apart their pitch, but it's for entertainment purposes.
No, it's for entertainment.
Yeah, no, it's for.
They've transformed their pitches, as we've said here.
Well,
I
and you've
want-
transformed, I think also you've transformed the listeners' thinking about the way that they're going to construct their pitch.
I hope so.
Yes.
Absolutely. I've learned a lot about that today,
so
and I'm not
good.
pitching anything really.
Well, there you go. And if anybody's interested in learning more about it, DonnaGriffit.com. It's 2 F's IT. No H. I'm not Melanie. Little S, Botox, none. Sorry. So DonnaGriffit.com.
Shots fired.
And you can find my my book, Sticking to My Story, on Amazon. And I give workshops. I work one-on-one with companies on their pitches. 2 hours. You have a completely deconstructed and reconstructed investor deck that has raised over $2 billion in over 10
Awesome.
years.
And check out her book by Donna Griffit, Sticking to My Story. You can get it on Amazon. Lisa, again, you're always amazing. Thank you for joining us. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and that's a wrap for today. This is Silicon Valley Impact. You can join us here every Tuesday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Silicon Valley Impact. See you all next week.